Board of Directors meeting. It's March 14th, 2022, and we're in the Carson City Community Center in the Robert Bob Kroll Boardroom. With that, I'll ask for a roll call. Linda?
Yes, Mike Jones,
Present.
Bobby Rader, Stacy Giomi, Steve Reynolds, Steve Kim is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment? Anyone who would wish to make a statement? Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to item 5, approval of the minutes of the February 15th, 2022 CTA board meeting. Does any member of the board have any changes or corrections in the minutes for last February's meeting?
Move to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. We'll bring up item 6. The consent agenda. Would any member of the public like have to any individual item pulled for individual discussion? And then would any board member like any individual item pulled for discussion? With that, if I can get a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I think that takes us on to item 9, a presentation providing an update on the Visit Carson City campaign. David, I think we're going to have a presentation from KPS3.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Jones. Dave Peterson for the record. We do have Sarah, Jenna, and Ryan. Jenna's going to start us off talking through our campaign strategy and concept. So I don't want to steal any of KPS3's thunder, so I'll let you take it away, Jenna.
Thank you. It's good to see you all again.
You're welcome. I should have said that first.
Especially Mike Jones, yes. I was thinking about it and I was like, I think this is the first in-person presentation that I've had with you guys since probably we did the logo and brand many years ago. So
Yeah, we've started this, COVID's put a start and stop to it many times.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're excited to come back out into the world with a bang here with these campaign concepts. And I'm actually going to pass the torch right out the gate to Sarah to tee us up with the campaign goals.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello. Nice to meet all of you. Sarah Polito with KPS3. So we began working very closely with Dave and Lydia and Zach and the team to look through and determine some great campaign goals for this campaign that would be coming up. With that, we did a lot of our own individual research. And then, of course, Brian was able to come in and do some really incredible research as well. But through all of that and creating that really strong foundation that would set up all of our creative from here on out, the goals here are to raise awareness about Carson City as a tourist destination, increase and maintain the percentage of travelers that think about Carson and would want to come here for at least 2 nights, and so essentially almost 3 days, that we would be able to drive traffic to your website. Again, the goal there is really to make sure that people understand and can learn more about all there is to do here. And then, of course, staying true to that established Carson City brand that was created back in 2019, and making sure that the campaign was very accurate to the amazing work that was done then, and then that we can continue to build off of from there.
And just as a refresh, we kept these in mind the entire time we were developing campaign concepts. We came up with several campaign concepts, whittled it down to 2. And then that's where we created, we call it spec creative. So everything's placeholder. It's really just for proof of concept. And then that's what we used to go into the testing phase and the research phase. But as a memory lane, just wanted to bring back up our positioning statement. And this was our North Star really the entire time we were working on these and developing them. The positioning statement, the brand pillars, and the brand promise. And our positioning statement for Visit Carson City is that we are a relaxed, outdoorsy, family-friendly destination that provides travelers a place to call home as they explore the history and natural wonder of Northern Nevada. Our brand promise is that through our warm greetings, our rich history, and our diverse, majestic landscapes, Carson City is a place you want to stay. It holds the heartbeat of Nevada and is where our Western history was forged. We are the center point of the Nevada experience. And then, of course, these brand pillars, we refer to these time and time again. This is really what holds up our brand as a tourism destination. And that is our rich history, our heritage and cultural influence, inclusive community, being family friendly, and having plenty of room to discover and wander. So those were themes that we wanted to make sure were well placed within our campaign concepts to make sure that we were tying everything back to this brand, and of course hitting our strategy to bring more awareness to Carson City as a tourism destination.
All right, and where we are at in the process. So Dave and Lydia had a really great foresight to recognize the importance of research in our work before us getting started into the creative piece. So we had a lot of research to go off of prior to us starting any of those creative concepts. So that's where everything started to give us that really strong foundation for where we were going to go. We then developed a creative brief or a strategic brief. Again, that was just kind of setting that roadmap so we knew and everyone was in complete alignment, again, before it got to that creative stage. From there, like Jenna had mentioned, we had 2 creative concepts. We started out with many, whittled that down, and then again had the great fortune to be able to test those concepts into both with qualitative and quantitative research to help make that decision. A lot of times we aren't fortunate enough to have that, and most of the time it's just a gut feeling. So it's really wonderful right now that we have the research to stand on and to help back that decision. So here today, we're going to be here talking to you about the campaign, and then next step is to finalize those assets and then move into launch, which will happen probably in June is the goal for us to get that all launched and out into the world. And then as far as, sorry. As far as our strategy goes, we really wanted to be able to focus on brand awareness, so that top of funnel, reminding potential visitors about Carson, and then really trying to entice past visitors to come back. Our message, of course, is going to focus on those attractions, the activities, the affordability that the city of Carson allows visiting here. And then we're going to, of course, be targeting people who are interested in booking a trip to Carson and hopefully persuade them to do so. With that, our tactics are going to be some TV and video, doing a couple billboards, a couple print ads, and then, of course, really leaning in and leveraging the social media advertising. And through that, we'll be able to test a lot of the messaging and the ads and continue to optimize along the way to make sure that the campaign is converting.
All right. With that, I wanted to basically tee up the campaign concept that is really rising to the top, not only within this internal team, but proven with the research as well that Brian will be going over. So what we do here is we create a campaign concept, and then we develop that spec creative that I was talking about. So that's going to have placeholder photos, messaging that we've really crafted to be geared toward that concept. And then we'll basically take all of that research that's been done and then apply that to updating the campaign, finalizing those assets, having a photo shoot and a video shoot, everything really, really custom to Carson City. But I will give you the concept overview of this one. We're kind of lovingly calling it the nostalgia campaign internally, so you'll hear reference to that. But this is where we're going with it. This concept is rooted in feelings of nostalgia that every person has felt about a past vacation. We'll remind our potential visitors of the family trips they once took as kids to inspire them to visit Carson City to make their future best memories here. The campaign will highlight attractions in Carson City as the perfect backdrop for outdoor activities and adventures, historical and cultural discovery, and timeless mountain charm. Our visitors can recreate, relive, and forge new vacation memories that will be reminisced on and shared for a lifetime. Carson City is so well positioned as a family destination, as a place to really be able to kind of slow down, enjoy all of the natural beauty that we have here, and then of course the diversity in attractions. So we believe that it's perfectly positioned to be able to recreate those memories that we're all so fond of. I think everyone has those, right? Those family trips that they took to the mountains when they were a child, or even it doesn't really matter where that location was, just that memory and that feeling that we're tapping into here, and the fact that you can absolutely recreate that, relive it, and make new memories in Carson City. So here's some sample creative messaging that we've been playing around with, and these appear on some of the print ads that people saw in the research, and it's weaved throughout our diversity of messaging platforms that we've created. Fighting in the backseat is a rite of passage. Rides are powered by two legs. The only flash is from a camera. We'll tell adventurous stories of how those skinned knee souvenirs came to be, and one day we'll realize these moments in the car, in the mountains, on the river, by the fire, these are the good old days. Live them now in Carson City. And so you could imagine some of those attractions coming to life in this messaging. So in the mountains, really just showing our beautiful backdrop, on the Carson River, by the fireplace at the Fox, something like that, or at the Old World's coffee place. And just being able to show those, but tying them to a feeling of nostalgia. In a lot of our research, we did find that nostalgia is something that people are just craving right now, especially coming off of the pandemic. They're craving that closeness and, moving toward smaller towns also to visit versus big metropolitan areas. So we're very well positioned for that type of messaging. A lot of the key messaging that we'll incorporate is that Carson City is the perfect destination that allows you to connect with your friends and family. The range of attractions, alpine beauty, and welcoming people will make you feel like you're taking a road trip, just like you did with your family and friends growing up. The type of memories you'll be able to make in Carson City are the ones that will last a lifetime because they're genuine and non-materialistic, and that Carson City allows you to slow down or speed up at your pace. It's a true getaway. All right.
All right. Questions from the board? All right. Well, as I mentioned at the start, this, we started looking at this strategy and campaign 2 years ago. And I love the fact that it's based on analytics and data that we use to drive the decisions. And I'm looking forward to being here this time next year talking about what a great success our strategy has been, to see if we were right or wrong. But I thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Board member Neighbors?
So one of the questions, you've noted on your nostalgia page that travelers in the primary and the secondary market find it equally appealing. But those in the secondary market were more likely to think the campaign made Carson City seem more appealing compared to those in the primary markets. Can you dive into that a little bit and tell me why the primary market maybe wasn't as exciting?
Yes, I wouldn't want to steal any of
yeah.
Brian's thunder. I believe that is in his presentation. We'll
Yeah,
be
I
going over
think
that.
we're
Steve, if
jumping
I can
ahead.
jump in real quick. Yeah, so Brian, we're setting everything up on the concept level, and then Brian London's actually going to take us through the second presentation for the research piece of it. So I think you're in this one, Steve, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brian's going to take us through that next, yeah.
Our intention was really to just give you some insight as to what that concept is that Brian's going to be going over. So you had a semblance of an idea of what our plan was there for the big
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah.
It kind of takes us through the history of what we've built here and how we got to where we are. And then,
Exactly.
Yes.
and Brian will back that up hopefully with data. With that, we'll move on to item 10, a presentation of data-informed advertising concept testing and research study. David, and I think Brian will be.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Chair Jones. Dave Peterson again for the record. So Brian London is on right now. I believe, Brian, you can hear us? Beautiful.
Yes, confirm.
There he is. All right. So with that, Steve, Brian will answer all of your questions and then some. But with that, I'm going to just turn it over to Brian to talk through these last few months of qualitative and quantitative research testing that we've been underway with in 11 markets, but I don't want to steal any of Brian's thunder either. So with that, Brian, take it away.
Oh, perfect. And just quick housekeeping. I'm sharing my screen and
Yes, we can see it.
you
Yep, we can see it, Brian.
Okay. I'm not sharing my video face. Is that okay? Or do you want me to turn that camera on?
No, you're totally fine.
Totally fine. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, then I'm going to take my suit jacket off if you can't see my face. And okay, hello, and thank you for inviting me to join your meeting this afternoon. My name is Brian London, and I facilitated the data-informed advertising concept testing. This is something that I do for destinations across the country. This is the fourth one I did this year, just by way of a reference. This is the kind of project that gives destinations a competitive advantage. And it does this because it's transferring the voice of the market into the final advertising concept that the agency is putting together. And we know that the final concept is going to have a positive impact when it's seen by the target market. So this is the data-informed loop that gives you the competitive advantage. So that's really what we're doing with this kind of project. The key findings represent feedback, as you heard from both our focus group participants and also over 1,100 individual respondents from our Carson City target markets. There could be something I show you that's very interesting to you, but I've inadvertently glossed over it, and that would not have been my intent. So if you see something that you want to spend more time discussing, just let me know and we'll certainly do it. Don't have a problem with it. There are 15 total slides. The first 8 slides are going to take about 10 minutes, and then the last 7 slides will cover almost an additional 10 minutes. So with that, let's kind of get right into it. This first slide is okay. This slide is the concept that you saw a moment ago from the agency when, now they're going to be presenting a fine-tuned version of this naturally, but this is what respondents saw when answering questions about the concept. And so in a very real sense, the information you're about to see represents kind of a gut reaction, right? To the images, to the tone, to the setting. And all of this is good. These images really correspond to what you saw earlier in those brand pillars. You see what the respondents see, which is family, you see outdoor, you see nature, you see wide open spaces, you see fun. You see essentially a visual representation of the brand pillars that are important to the destination and also that are important to the market, right? Because we want the market to associate these things with the destination. And so in a very real sense, it's kind of capturing the voice of the visitor and then converting that into images that can then, what we call, activate the market. And this pause is me trying to find the cursor to move the slide. See if I can do it here. Okay. If we took all of the respondents and kind of put them in different charts, this is what it would look like. We have basically the feedback of family, fun, outdoor, adventure, active, and these are positive things. And with that positivity, we also have some insights for all of us to keep in mind as we move forward to the final concept. One of those insights to keep in mind is feedback that the images they're seeing could be for several different travel destinations. Only a 22% in the pie chart here are alerting us that these images are probably only for Carson City. Again, this is feedback and this is information for us to use as we move forward to the final iterations of this campaign. But it's important to know that the travel market is educated, right, in the images that they're seeing. It's not just that they're seeing images for Carson City or for nothing, right? It's that they're seeing images for Carson City and all other competing destinations. So it's important to take this data information and really implement it into the final concepts. We asked individuals to tell us their feelings across these different metrics. And this is what you heard a moment ago in the earlier presentation about making sure that we hit our campaign goals. You could take these things and also rank them, right? And so some of these things might be more important than the others, but they're all very informative into what the market thinks of the concept and how we finalize the images and the final version of it. For example, you'll see statistics in a moment on how believable the concept is about the destination that's portraying. That might be something that's more of an agency feedback mechanism to make sure that we're using images that resonate with the traveler. Something further down, like intent to stay 2 or more nights, that might be more of a hard metric that we're capturing kind of down the road once we do a post-campaign analysis. Okay, so this is the first kind of look at a deep dive of what the data is telling us. On the far side of the screen are the campaign concepts that we started off with. Next to that are the key metrics that I showed you a moment ago. And then to the side of those key metrics are different percentages of how the respondents are ranking these things. It's their overall rating. It's how the primary markets scored those metrics, the secondary markets scoring those metrics, and then some norms from other campaigns that we're looking at. And so you're doing 2 things with a slide like this. The first thing you're doing is you're just naturally scanning and looking for differences in the percentages. And where one percentage is higher than the other, you're forming a natural conclusion that a higher percentage is better than a lower percentage. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, and you should feel comfortable doing it. If you take this to the next level, we're also looking for things that are kind of statistically significant. And this is just different mathematical modeling that takes place behind the scenes. And I've tried to highlight here with these subscripts by the letters A, B, C, or D. And these little subscripts are signaling to you that something is more important compared to whatever that subscript is. So let's look at the intent to search online, for example. What this is, how you read this is to say that overall, the market's intent to search online for more information after seeing these ad concepts is outperforming what we see across all other campaigns that we're researching. And so that's a very good metric that we want to keep in mind. This is good information for us as we finalize the concepts. And then looking at something like intent to visit, you can see the primary markets are statistically significant, scoring this higher. They have a higher intent to visit than, say, the secondary markets, and also against all other research that we have on file. And so again, this is a kind of a positive attribute that we just want to start keeping in mind for future evaluation. As you can read here in the bottom notes, travelers in the primary and secondary markets find the campaign equally appealing. But those in the secondary markets were significantly more likely to think the campaign made Carson City seem more appealing compared to those in the primary markets. And this is looking at the center of your chart, impact on Carson City appeal. You can see secondary markets at 74%. And we think something like that is attributed to the idea that a secondary market might have been less likely to have visited Carson City in the past. And so their baseline might be closer to 0. And of course, the advertising is essentially doing its job, right? It's making the destination more appealing to those that might not have a baseline perception of what the destination is like. And so these are very good results, very encouraging results. And it's the primary reason why it should be comfortable to all of us to move forward with this kind of concept. Here we're looking at why this information is not only important, but who it applies to. This is a chart showing you individuals that have thought about coming to Carson City but never have, those that have been here but came more than 5 years ago, and those that came within the last 5 years. And you can see compared to these other comparative destinations, it's right in the middle of how these others are doing. And it also just passes our, really our common sense test, right? I mean, we could assume where something like Lake Tahoe might score if we were just to ask ourselves these questions compared to something further down on the chart, whose names I'm not going to say because it's not relevant. So I think this was a question that we heard from one of the council members earlier. Both visitors and non-visitors believe nostalgia makes Carson City seem more appealing. That's very important. You can see here on one side of the screen those metrics that we identified earlier, and then how prior visitors and then non-visitors are scoring each of these metrics. And here again, this gives us sort of baseline to understand what the future impact of a campaign like this will be once we're converting non-visitors to visitors, first of all. And then second of all, it gives us a sense of standing as we're promoting ourselves to past visitors for understanding what their expectations are in an ad campaign. The most important thing, of course, is to be relevant, right, to the markets. We don't want to show visitors, potential visitors or past visitors, something about the destination that doesn't portray the destination accurately. So this kind of information, this chart you're looking at, really keeps things on pace. This is a positive data chart that we want to always keep in mind when finalizing concepts. Okay, we are moving right along and making good time. It looks like we will wrap up before the 20 minutes. With that in mind, we also wanted to get a sense of what we're up against when putting these concepts out into the market. And we look at something like, well, are you even familiar with this destination? Would you consider it as a place to take a vacation? And you can see here Carson City coming in at about 53%. Are even familiar with it, and then some of the comparative destinations and their levels of familiarity. Clearly, you can see what the implication for this would be of obviously a lot of upside potential, or what we would say in the marketing world is there's a lot of room to move the needle here in making more people aware who previously were unaware. Again, this is a positive statistic, one that we like to really show. In understanding who we're targeting, it's important to understand, of those recent visitors, where did Carson City fit in their overall travel planning? And you can see 46%, nearly half of them, had Carson City as their primary destination. And here's a distribution of where else they went, some just passing through, some signaling that Lake Tahoe was their primary destination. In terms of taking the data and identifying opportunities, the opportunity from data like this is clear, and we're trying to put this together in the different reports, which is that there is a desire to be in Lake Tahoe and to engage in the activities that Lake Tahoe offers. Of course, naturally, we know that Lake Tahoe comprises a portion of Lake Tahoe comprises a portion of the county. And so that's an asset that can start to be leveraged either through digital or social media placements. So they have been here before, and the question is, well, how frequently? This answers a question like that. And then when was the last time? We use information like this when putting together final images. There might be parts of the destination that are new or newly developed that past visitors might not be aware of. And so it's possible that their perceptions of Carson City have not changed since they were here. And what advertising can do is help give those perceptions kind of a new orientation to let them know that there are still things to do here that they might not have considered. You heard the primary campaign goal, getting folks to spend more than 2 nights. And so here we have some baseline readings. We're coming in at just under 2 nights. But what we're looking for in the data, again, is the opportunity. And you can see 35% spending 2 to 3 nights, another 18% spending 4 to 7 nights. And so there's 2 channels here, 2 swim lanes. The first is making sure that we're focused on the segments that are spending a longer length of stay. And then the second swim lane is looking at those that are at 0 to 1 nights and making sure that they understand from a perception standpoint that there is certainly more than enough to do to justify more than 2 nights in the destination. And what a chart like this does is it confirms that it's true. There is enough to do in order to spend those more than 2 nights. In fact, almost 55% of the market, more than half, is already doing so. That's very positive. So now the question becomes, well, how do we even know what kind of images are worth showing the market? Here we're looking at how recent visitors versus others describe what's important to them. And you can see at the top of this list, offering a sense of history, which is certainly true of the destination, and offering new experiences each time I visit, which I spoke to a moment ago. And the reason we're looking at a slide like this, comparing recent visitors and non-visitors, is because it shows us what's important, as opposed to if we were just to look at the overall desirability of something. In this case, you might see that offers a sense of history is ranking towards the bottom of this chart at 60%, whereas if we were to break out the recent visitors versus the non-visitors, we see that recent visitors are actually elevating the idea that this destination offers a sense of history, that that's a positive attribute. So this kind of teasing of the data is the kind of thing that we share with the agency and share with the destination in order to put forward the best concepts that you're seeing from the ad agency. And I'm proud to report that the agency has absorbed all of this information and has been able to move forward in designing concepts that will resonate in the market. So these are the good old days, nostalgia for the campaign, but the truth is that the best days are ahead of us, because once this campaign hits the market, you're going to see increased average length of stay, higher spending, and more visitors in the destination. Congratulations to everyone. Okay, let's pause here for questions from the group.
Thank you, Brian. Before we get into the questions, I want to acknowledge that Board Member Kim has joined the meeting. Although we can't see him, he can hear us and answer questions or ask questions. So he has joined the meeting. With that, I'll open it up.
Correct, I am on.
Then I'll open it up to board members for questions. Mr. London? Board Member Reynolds?
Brian, thank you for your explanations. I probably missed it somewhere, but how are you defining the primary market versus the secondary market here?
Thank you for your question. We looked at primary markets were identified early in the process as I'm looking through the presentation at the notes for the source. let me pause on responding and find it in my notes and then respond either in the chat or before our question and answer is up.
Brian, can I help you out with our, or at least primary markets for sure? So our primary markets are Sacramento, DMA, San Francisco DMA, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Reno, Tahoe. So outside of that, we also did our secondary markets, which are lesser advertised markets as Phoenix, Salt Lake, Portland, and I believe Boise, and I think there's another one in there that I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's how they're distinguished. So our primary markets are our core kind of, yes, I think it was, thank you. But yeah, our core primary markets are really their surrounding DMAs, including Las Vegas.
Based on a geographic, okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Correct.
The other thing I find interesting, looking at the strategy, as I look at the visuals presented, I mean, it's a very warm and fuzzy photographs, very warm and fuzzy messaging, and I can see why your test audience thought that they could be a lot of different places rather than Carson. And again, I don't have a good, bad, or anything opinion about it. They are inviting. It just, out of curiosity, I'm sitting there thinking we have a lot of interesting outdoor things here, and yet this is fairly generic. And maybe that's a good way to go. It's just something that struck me.
Steve, and for the board's edification, the next steps, we're actually going to be undertaking an entire video photo drone shoot. So everything will be shot here in Carson City for the campaign itself. So that's our next phase. So again, this was just sort of that concept level dialogue, and then next steps we'll have this it's a big photo video drone shoot for us. But everything will be shot here in Carson City at Carson City locations. And so that's our next step now after we move this process forward. And I'll let, if you want to jump in on that, Sarah, but don't be alarmed about what you saw in here as far as the concept side and what we were testing. Obviously, we don't have the budget to be able to do a full shoot, test those concepts, then come back, do another full video photo shoot. And so our effort is going to go in now to a big creative shoot. And that's but I know you want to say something, Sarah. So.
Can I say something?
Oh, sure.
Because it tags right along to what Steve said. I think I sort of had the same, I guess the same impression. I felt like the outdoor component was a little bit lost. In reading this, I didn't get that sense. Certainly the history was caught. I think the beauty was caught. I think the family-friendly environment was caught. I just feel like the outdoor component might have been a little bit lacking. And maybe we can still pick that up, because I definitely think that is a major draw and what might, in fact, set us a little bit aside from some of those other communities is because you can get a family-friendly, you can get history in other places, but really the whole package, I think, is what helps in our, and I didn't get the sense either, and I think maybe Steve was saying that same thing. So whether that was because we just, we couldn't do it, or as you said, David, it was just not possible with what was there. I just want to make sure that full, because I think that piece is a big part of it and it isn't lost.
Yeah, we definitely agree with you. It is absolutely beautiful here, and there are so many amazing outdoor activities to do. So that definitely will be highlighted in the campaign. And those photos that you saw, those were stock images. So we were kind of anticipating that was going to be the result. And like David was saying, once we are able to really capture the beauty here, it's going to look very different. It's just that kind of mood board. We always like to say it's kind of like interior design where they show you the swatches and you kind of get to see a little bit of what that's going to be like. But those are really great notes, and we'll make sure to incorporate those in our final deliverables.
All right, I'll just chime in, everybody. What, on my notes was, I just wrote kind of lost, that we're, you know, it didn't set us apart, you know, and I think that's what both, but it sounds like we're all addressing it. Board Member Reynolds?
Out of, was distance traveled part of your questionnaire for the people who are considering or have come here in the past? And perhaps it's not wouldn't offer a valuable piece of information.
I think that was caught in the primary market component. So that was one of the things that drove what was a primary market, I think, and what was a secondary market.
I believe we used 400 miles plus or minus was our range. And so that actually goes back, Steve, to the strategic research that we did with our own database. Geez, I want to say August or September of last year. And so we sort of try to find the inflection point in there. I think it was 400 or 450 off the top of my head, Lydia.
400.
Yeah,
400.
it was 400.
Plus or minus was what we looked at, especially because we're such a drive market, right, for people as well. And just from a syndicated research perspective, that also lined up with what was going on a national basis as well for drive, was that sort of 400-mile threshold as far as people driving. And that is, again, that's a huge percentage of our visitors to Carson City, our drive market. So that is where, yeah, sort of the impetus for our split on primary versus secondary markets.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question.
Other questions for Brian? Brian, I just had one, and I was, the one that jumped out to me on, I forget what page, it was on page 5, was brand fit. And if I understand that right, that's kind of what they think they know about Carson City and how we're branding it differ. And that seemed to be the one that jumped out. Does that mean our messaging is getting, does that go back to confusing messaging, or does that tell us something different?
Great thing to point out. It tells us something different. It tells us that there's opportunity to inform the traveler that these are correct perceptions of the destination. A lot of the market has not been to Carson City, and so they're really unable to evaluate if it's a brand fit. They just might not know. It might be someone like attending this meeting that if nobody's ever attended, they might say, oh my goodness, I would definitely not want to attend that. But for those of us that attend meetings like this, we're saying, oh, I love these meetings. I wish I could have them every week. So it's the same thing for this kind of brand fit metric. It's not a negative. It's information. It's data informed for the agency to kind of put a post-it note, right, on the board that reminds everyone that there's opportunity to let the market have an accurate perception of the destination. This is our chance to move that needle. If you remember in the slide, we were showing just 52% were aware of the destination. That means there's 48% that can't clearly form a brand identity to know if it's accurate or not. So these aren't negative statistics. These are informative statistics that give us confidence that the agency's final version of the ad is going to resonate in the market. I view all of these as positive. Nothing here really struck me as concerning compared to other destinations that do have concerning concepts, which I'm sure you could name yourselves. You've seen them in the market.
All right, thank you. Board Member Reynolds?
One more, and I know I'm out of step because I haven't been here for all of the 2 years or whatever, but when we talk about the brand pillar of an inclusive community, kind of tell me what that, I'd like to know kind of what that entails.
you want me to take that one? You guys want to take it? Go for it.
That was really speaks to how you're treated when you visit Carson City. You are a welcoming community, one where it's not difficult to fit in and feel like you're a part of the community. And so that was what we found in our initial brand research as being a key differentiator from other nearby destinations.
Any other questions? Well, Brian, thank you. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to put this presentation together, and appreciate the work, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions for KPS 3 before the school bell rings? And, all right, well, thank you for making the trip down. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having us.
Thank you.
We'll move on to monthly non-action items. David?
Thank you, Chair Jones. Yeah, my thanks too to KPS3, the whole team, and to Brian for working together so nicely, honestly, over these past, it feels like 9 months or so. The research, there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of meetings, and to my team as well for embracing, including some extensive research, in this process. So we don't take these decisions lightly as far as the new creative and the look and the feel and how we are going to represent Carson City to our visitors from around the world, as well as we want the community to be proud with what we come up with. So anyway, it's been a fun process, and I got to do research again, which is awesome. I didn't know if that would ever happen. So thank you to all of you. So I appreciate it. All right, with that, Chair, we will go ahead and move on to 11A, which is my Executive Director update. I just have 2 items to bring to the board's attention. So the Commission on Tourism, hopefully this week, is going to be releasing their first cycle grant, the marketing grant program for fiscal 23. So I know the team has several projects that they are already looking at bringing forward from an application standpoint. The second thing, and I'm excited about this, I've been asked to represent the Reno Tahoe territory in Mexico City and Guadalajara, first week of April, on behalf of the Reno Tahoe territory. So we will be promoting to all those great tour operators, travel agents, media. Volaris Airlines is involved in that as well. So we'll have some group meetings. Thank you, guys. And some one-on-ones as well. So I'm looking forward to that. It's been exciting, I think, to get back out there from an international perspective and put the Reno Tahoe territory on the market, as well as Carson
Let me know
City.
if you need a personal attaché.
I will do that. Yes. Do we have that in the budget, Chris? Will you let me know? Okay. Oh, okay. But Stacy, there's money. Oh, geez, there's no money for me to go. No. And actually, this is something that the territory received grant funding for, so there's no cost to visit Carson City, just my time for that week.
Thank you for your sacrifice those days.
Yes. Yeah. It's good to know we have other volunteers. So yes, just in case things don't work out for me. So those are my 2 updates for this month. Any questions on either of those? Okay, great. We will go ahead and move on to 11B, the transient occupancy tax, actual versus forecast. I have to tell you, I know last month I took the first quarter down, if you recall, thinking that things were not looking very well for January. And then we came in plus 21% over the 19 numbers. So great information. And yes, this is still in blue only because a couple of properties we're just working on finalizing their figures for January. But given January's number, I did go ahead and bump back up February and March, and we'll just kind of see how things go. I'll be quite honest with you, month to month, the numbers are they bounce all over the place. So trying to track. Yeah, go ahead, Stacy, yes.
David, do you get the sales tax report from the finance department at the city?
I do not. No.
Might be helpful for you to get that.
Okay.
Just reach out to Sherry Russell.
Okay.
Because as a city, we're still doing okay because we budgeted under flat. But we anticipated that November, December would be positives over the previous fiscal year. And December came in actually negative.
Oh,
So
wow.
December was the first negative month, year over year in sales tax that we've had in Carson for a long time. And we're
Really?
expecting January and February to be even worse just because last January and February was legislative session. And this January, February, there's not. So obviously, sales tax numbers lag behind. It will be,
couple of months.
it'll probably be another week or so and we'll have
January.
January's. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's a correlation. There's got to be a little bit of a tie, but I think just as you
Yeah.
do some analysis, it might be interesting for you to have that number
Yep.
because it's broken down by category.
Okay.
And it would just, I think it would be helpful data to have.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that because usually sales tax, if you're dependent upon tourism, it'll flow up and down with lodging.
Yeah.
And if you have entertainment tax, there's other things
Well,
that
that's why I
tie.
was surprised when you showed January being up.
Yeah.
And December was even up.
Yes.
But on the sales tax side, it was not.
Yeah,
I think it was 0.5% under the December of the previous year of 2020.
yeah. So Stacy, I will definitely take a look at that because we were plus 61% as compared to December the year before, right? And then 25% in January as compared to the January before. So January 2022 versus January 2021, and then obviously December 21 against December 2020. These were all-time records for the months of December and January by a long shot.
Well, it's interesting. I noticed that January you wouldn't really have any legislative time yet, but
Yeah.
February it would start again. And then I don't think they allowed anyone in the building until either mid-February or early March.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and thanks to Chris for reminding me too, we did have a new property come online in May, if you recall, last year as well, so that is helping us.
That's right, yes.
Yep, so that helps
Forgot
with
about
this
that, yeah.
percentage of increase. So we'll kind of see, our baseline is really, well, it's the middle of May, but we'll just say our baseline for full month will be June of this year as compared to June of last year.
It's kind
with
of
the
interesting
current
that we added, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't always equate to adding inventory to an increase necessarily in the room tax revenue because you would think that it's just
Yeah, you
the
might
same
cannibalize.
number of people,
Mhm.
going to different places, but it's actually encouraging that you added a
Yes.
property and added inventory and added
Grew.
and grew, yeah. Because
Yes.
it means that we're pulling from other markets
Absolutely.
where we are more appealing for whatever the case may be. My
Yeah.
guess is price, because I think that probably drives
Yeah.
to a great extent, what those numbers look like.
Absolutely, and I don't want to, talk on behalf of Mike or Steve K, but the fact that we were able to absorb that new inventory, almost 100 rooms into, at the time, almost 1,400, rates still up, occupancy up, that shows the demand is there for that new room inventory, that new type of product. I think having an extended stay luxury level, right, also helped. I think that's something that our market clearly needed and people were
Right.
looking for.
There was a
Go ahead.
demand for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think February, I think you'll see a positive growth. I am getting nervous now about gas pricing and what that's going to look like in the months coming if it gets to $6 or $7. We've already seen some pushback on that and cancellation, so I think that's something we got to pay attention to.
I'm worried about that too as a drive market and what that impact could cut that 400-mile distance down.
Well,
right?
you could spring some immediate ads on the social media that they can go back home cheaper. They can buy gas in Carson City.
Right.
and they can travel
Exactly.
elsewhere.
Just get here first, and exactly, then we can give you the $5, not the $7 gasoline. I like that. There's some social media opportunity. Yeah, and we are keeping a close eye, obviously, on what's going on with the price of gas and some other factors going on out there in the world as well for this summer. So, are there any other questions on the room tax report? Okay. With that, I'll go ahead and move on to 11C, the events and sales update. And before we get into this, I just want to say this is, you'll be happy, I think, that I don't have to give this update anymore. We extended an offer in the past week and a half to Mr. Stuart Wexler, who many of you know is with the Staybridge Suites in Carson City, formerly with the Hampton. He was also at a property in Reno, and he accepted that offer, and he will be starting on the 31st of this month. So I'm very excited to have Stu on board. Very, very, very extensive experience in the hotel world, but on the sales side and events. You know, he's been heavily involved in his time here with Parks Rec on all the tournaments that we've had and the other special events. So good things to come on the events and sales side of things. So anyway, with that, Lydia and I are going to kind of tag team the events and sales report. So Lydia, I'll let you take it away.
So I was fortunate enough to fill in for James at Go West Summit until we got Stu on board, which I loved going to, and that was in Reno in mid-February. So we were able to take some appointments with tourism-based suppliers, tour operators, receptives, and media. So I was happy to know that there was media there that I could pitch to. And I had 36 appointments over 2 days, which are 12 minutes long. So it's pretty action-packed while you're here, including to a day of just learning and education. So our appointments included 6 media appointments too. And then all follow-up has been made, and some leads are already coming to fruition, like sports, leisure, vacations, which you've heard us speak to before. I actually spoke to one of their different tour operators who brings people in for the balloon races and for the camel races that weekend. And they want to take the train down from Virginia City to Carson City and stay the night. And so we think there's some great opportunities for that to happen. Also got itineraries for Carson City in front of many more operators and tailored them to their tours and their markets. We also hosted the Hidden Gems Adventure Day, which was that Thursday after. So it's pretty much a 4-day event. And Dave was really amazing at helping coordinate that. They were quite enamored with Carson City, I will have to say. We brought them donuts and coffee and LA Bakery and chocolates from the Brewery Arts Center. And so we started the day off right, but we took them on 3 different location stops before they went to Carson Valley. So Mary Bennett hopped on board, who does our Ghost Walk tours, and she gave us kind of a tour of the history from Reno to Carson City, and also walked us along some of the stops on the Kit Carson Trail. We went inside the Capitol building, and then a huge thanks to and Bobby and Chris at Stewart for doing a tour there as well. That was definitely one of the highlights of the tour. A big educational opportunity. It's really one of the unique things that sets us apart internationally, and people were very excited to hear about it and excited to take their tours there and learn more. So I talked a lot about Stewart and a lot about our history, and even just educating people that came in internationally that didn't even know that we were 30 minutes away from where they were staying the night. So it was a great educational opportunity, and really great things from those who attended. You could read the email I got back in the upper right-hand corner from a travel agent in Belgium that came on the Adventure Day as well. And I think there's some good things to come, and we'll continue as Stewart takes over this position and really runs with it. And with that, I'll pass it off to Dave to talk about IPW happening in June.
So I know I gave Lydia credit last month. The reason she wasn't here is because she was actually in the middle of taking the appointments, but she kicked butt, stepped up to handle this trade show as well as the Adventure Day. So she was on the whole thing for the morning, which was awesome.
It was fun.
I got some coffee and some pastries together, which was hard enough for me, quite frankly. But yeah, everybody, Linda prepared all of our kits and bags. This was really a team effort. And Bobby, thank you very much for you, the team, Chris, and the volunteers for putting together a great close right before the lunch hour so they could get down to Carson Valley. Lydia's right, it was very well received, so much so that I think for NTA, which is in November or December, forgive me for not remembering, in Reno, that's National Tour Association, we'll have an entire day with potentially, we could have 50 or more tour operators and motor coach operators, and we'll just be running amok here in Carson City. So I think I'll be busy that week, Lydia, so Stuart will figure it out, you know. So anyway,
Well, yeah,
my
but-
thanks to the team, seriously, and for all of our partners here in Carson City for making it an awesome adventure day. Taking us to IPW June 2022, Orlando. Appointments for this open up this week, so I'm going to be working on that, and obviously we'll get Stu transitioned in, but we think we have a great opportunity to actually not be in the exposition hall a couple of miles away from the Nevada Pavilion. We're actually going to be inside the Travel Nevada setup. So picture 6 10x10 booths, 3 on each side. We will be located next to the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority, and then Elko and Travel Nevada will be directly across from us in the Nevada Pavilion. I'm super excited. They're covering the carpet, the chairs, and the backdrop, and all that good stuff for us. And we'll be doing our own pop-ups, and we'll be taking our own appointments or Stu will in terms of appointments for the show. But we're gonna hopefully pick up where we left off in Las Vegas last September. At the IPW, which was the first one, I think, in a couple of years, right, that they had as an in-person. And so we've got a lot of folks that are already excited to see us in Orlando. So we're going to keep the needle moving and revving the engine on the sales side for IPW. So that is the sales update, events and sales update for this month. Any questions for me or anything for Lydia? Okay. And Steve, I want to make sure, in case you needed anything, we're not ignoring you, okay? With that, we'll go ahead and move on to 11D, which is our Arts and Culture Program update. Deborah Soul, take it away.
Thank you, David. Deborah Soul here. So an update on the Arts and Culture Program, where we're at. I'm going to be talking about what's happening with the Arts and Culture Master Plan and the program, a little bit more about Mark Twain Days and the Art on the Trails and environmental art demonstration projects, and the Mercury Cleaner mural. So in terms of the Arts and Culture Plan, it is still intended to be presented to the Board of Supervisors at an upcoming meeting. Likely, it will be titled a strategic plan as opposed to a master plan, which was just a preference indicated that it be renamed. I think either way, it's fine. And also, it will be going to the Board of Supervisors along with changes to the program. So at a recent Board of Supervisors workshop, it was decided that a city arts and culture program position is going to be created under the Parks and Rec Department in order to enable the city to have oversight of city-based arts and culture programming separately from tourism-based arts and culture program. So we're working with city staff on this and anticipate that it will go together to a Board of Supervisors meeting in the near future. The Mark Twain Days Annual Festival, planning for that event is moving forward. As I indicated last month, this is to be an annual festival being planned as a celebration of Mark Twain's life and adventures here in Carson City. We still have approximately a year to prepare for this event, but the planning committee is expanding and moving forward with lots of great ideas and good representation from across the city and input into that process. The Art on the Trails project, planning for this new outdoor art event and experience is progressing, and a demonstration piece is nearing completion on the Carson River Park Trail. The plan is to position art stations along selected locations along the Carson River Park Trail that will provide an opportunity for visitors and residents to try their hand at plein air painting, outdoor painting, or at environmental art or gourd art. We're going to offer all of those options, and then finish the day off with some musical entertainment over a meal at Silver Saddle Ranch. So we're working with the Parks and Recreation Department to plan this, and we're looking at late May and mid-September dates potentially to introduce this new arts experience. And the Mercury Cleaners Project mural. The timeline for this project has been pushed back somewhat. It looks like there's going to be some temporary chain link fencing erected along Curry Street during the initial phase of this project when they need to be moving more equipment on and off the site. So during that initial phase, there will just be chain link fencing and, as I understand it, just a photographic banner on the chain link fencing. But once they move into the longer term stages of the project, that's when they want to erect wooden fencing, and that's when we will have a mural commissioned for the site. And we're commencing work on that commissioning contract for that project at this time. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Deborah. Any questions for Deborah from the board? I'm excited. I know Deborah's been out there at Silver Saddle area, the park, working on the first piece that's going up from the environmental art perspective. And it's cool stuff. I didn't even know there was such a thing until maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago in talking to Deborah. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to incorporate art in with our folks that are walking, running, hiking, biking out on the trails. So I'm excited to see this come to fruition.
And if I might add, the comments by hikers passing by as the demonstration project is moving forward has been incredibly positive. People are really excited about it, and I'm getting comments like, if I walk further along, will there be more? I have to say, well, maybe in the future.
That's what nights and weekends are for, Deborah. So if you need the team to help you move.
But isn't the idea to I mean, I think the idea would be cool to spread that around to different trails, for instance. Doesn't only have to be that trail, and maybe next year we set up a day or two where we do the V&T trail behind the college, and someone does something there. And I mean, I could see you opening it up to people who want to apply to display their art. And I mean, isn't that kind of the whole point? After this initial sort
That
of-
could be, and the intention is that during the Art on the Trail experience, that there'll be a workshop on how to and what environmental art is and how to go about it.
Yeah.
So
But
that
of
will
course,
include.
I think the natural ties to me are to the school district and the college because, and I really don't, I'm sorry to say, know how extensive an art program, if at all, they have at the college. I really don't know, but I suspect they must have something at the very least. And it seems like a perfect tie to be able to involve them, and it gives those students a way to demonstrate their art to the public. And yeah, I love the idea. So.
Yes, there is in fact an art program, and there has been some conversation with the college already.
Thank you, Deborah.
You might have answered this question, Deborah. and it speaks to what Stacy just mentioned, that hopefully this grows where you've got people applying for it, right? But who decides who gets to display?
I think we'll figure that out as we go along.
Okay.
Thank you for that tough question, Chair Jones. All right, if there are no further questions for Deborah, let's go ahead and move on to 11E, the marketing and PR update. Lydia Beck, take it away.
Lydia Beck for the record. Sorry, you don't do one of these for a month and you feel real rusty. So thanks for bearing with me as I stumbled along here. But we have a few things to talk about. I really wanted to, let our partners present about the concept we chose. But what I want to focus on today is our strategy and exactly how we're going to deploy this campaign. We're also going to go through the PR report, our Expedia update, Bandwango, and also a new video from Zach as well. So you've heard the concept of nostalgia. So what's next? And the next steps are completing that creative photo and video shoot and creating the assets for this campaign. And then once we have that, we'll need this execution plan of how to get this campaign out into the market. And so we're really excited about that shoot because it's specifically made for this campaign. We chose those more stock photos because we didn't feel like our photos we're able to tailor into more of that nostalgic kind of retro feel. So moving forward with this shoot, we're very excited to be able to tailor it for this campaign and really make something that's representative and truly authentic for Carson City. So let's recap our goals and what we want to accomplish with the campaign just one more time. At its highest level, our 5 goals are to increase awareness of Carson City as a tourist destination, ultimately inspire action and convert those who are considering visiting, which, as Brian said, is really a unique goal for us because they want to come here. We just have to give them the reasons why. Also, increase the length of stay by showing that there's enough to do here. And also drive our website traffic so we can track if our content is effective and to also acquire data. And lastly, create a campaign that's truly authentic for Carson City and the experience that the visitor is going to have here. And who are we targeting? And so to really, given the size of our media budget, we're going to need to stick to our primary markets in order to make meaningful enough ad buys that will actually make an impact and accomplish our aforementioned goals. And you'll see that we have some pretty big DMAs. I mean, these are large markets. So even with our budget, I think we're going to be even selective on some of the targeting that we do. But you'll see that Reno and Tahoe is on here because we really want to bring awareness for day trips, especially for those in Tahoe, so that maybe those considering visiting Tahoe again may convert to an overnight in Carson City on their future trips. So where will these campaigns delivered? We'll be optimizing this campaign to focus on the main areas in which we make the most ad buys. So that's YouTube, social media ads, streaming, and search. Ultimately, these advertising outlets drive inspiration to search more about Carson City online, which is where our search budget allows our Visit Carson City content to be the first content they see on Google and when they're searching. That then leads them to our website, which is optimized to provide the ultimate Carson City experience and information. And as you can see on the Traveler's Life Cycle graph there, this campaign is obviously all about the dream and discover phase of the buyer journey. So our retargeting that we have with our display ads, we will use that and our newsletters to really help budge that booking part of the journey and getting them here to Carson City. Also, our PR and influencer marketing efforts are a huge part of what we do internally. And so it's going to be a large part of this campaign. We'll have media kits then that we'll send out and PR boxes to influencers and journalists to kind of tease what their experience is going to be here and encourage them to create memories here in Carson City and spark ideas for what to write about or where they want to go here. So that's really our high level strategy, and if happy to go into any of this in further detail if there's any questions at this point. Let's move on then to our February PR report. So last month, we spent a lot of time in pitching travel and media influencers to visit the region and continue to create long leads for future events like the Great Western Steam Up that's happening in July over 4th of July weekend. Nicole from KPS3, her efforts with Via Magazine, which is AAA's travel publication, just featured our rail bikes in their article about rail bikes in the West, which will be featured in next month's report, which has a tremendous reach, even in the magazine and online. So we're very excited to see that. And our numbers this month are actually really great. We got a ton of PR in February. A majority of this comes from Jared Ranahan came, I feel like almost a year ago now. He wrote for Forbes magazine and online about Reno day trips. And that accounted for $1 million in publicity value from that one article alone. And we also saw a number of arts and culture articles this month due to the Chinese Lunar New Year and all of the events happening at the museum. So I was excited to see our breakdown was historical and arts and culture this year, in addition to some outdoor. These next 2 slides I'll let you read through on your own just to give you an idea of what the talk is and the buzz is about Carson City. So for Expedia, we've been running a co-op with Travel Nevada for about every grant cycle that we've been able to apply for that they've been running with. And we were able to get in on the spring cycle that started March 1st and goes through June 1st. We started at a $10,000 investment with the grant, but we had some funds from some advertising that we moved around that we put back into Expedia. So we actually have a $15,000 investment in this that we feel like will significantly support our hoteliers We were a little concerned in January, to be honest, and February about what the projections were going to look like, and we felt like this was a great place to put this investment. And given what we've seen, I really think that this is going to be beneficial for our hoteliers. So the landing page, what you see on the bottom left here, Carson City is on the top of the landing page. We have one of the most significant investments in the program, so we're the first destination that they see on the Travel Nevada landing page. And you can see some of the display ads on the upper left that are run for Travel Nevada during this campaign as well. And we will have reporting back in July. So our Bandwango Hungry Hikers and Bikers Pass is doing well. It was launched in January. We had nearly 350 passes downloaded. 322 were from Nevada, 16 from California, and then we had some other states sprinkled in there too from Idaho, Texas, and Arizona. We have 38 active passes though, so people who are actually out on the trails checking in or redeeming coupons and redemptions. So far we've had some from Piazza, So Juicy, and Old World. We've had 164 total trail check-ins between these. And we're doing our first grand prize drawing at the end of the month. So every time that they check in at a trail is another entry into winning the grand prize, which will have pretty much, right now we're seeing a lot of locals, which we anticipated because we're just getting the buzz out about this. So we'll be doing a lot of gift cards to local restaurants, rail bike passes, maybe try to tailor some fun experiences in there too. And then we anticipate doing a biannual drawing, so doing a drawing once every 6 months so that we give them enough time to check in and really see most of the trails. So we're adjusting as we go, but what we've learned so far is we're doing a lot of social media advertising for this campaign, and we might need to tap that budget up just a hair to get more awareness out about this. But I'm really excited to see that the locals are engaging in this and maybe exploring trails that they didn't know, and this becomes a staple, on our website and that people know about and they use while they're here as a tool to explore more about Carson City. And I don't know if you knew, but we have a new attraction in town, and I want to share Zach's latest video highlighting High Sierra pack goats.
My name is Jody Gullickson, and I lead tours with High Sierra pack goats. The goats are so much fun, and they each have their own little personality. The client may choose a favorite goat, but the goat tends to choose a favorite person too. Hiking with goats is so much fun, and where else are you going to be able to get an opportunity to do this other than Carson City? If you'd like to go on a goat excursion, you can find us at highsierrapackgoats.com. Pack goats. If you haven't done it, you should try it.
So that was Jody. She is a gem of Carson City if you've never met her, but she created this High Sierra Pack Goats tour options. And so she has some short tours and then also some long ones where you can go along the Carson River now. So she's been working diligently with Parks and Rec to obtain all the permits to make this happen. And she was gracious enough to let us meet the goats and make our video and help her highlight that. But she sells her tickets on Airbnb experiences, which is really an interesting insight for us because she's seeing most people book this from Tahoe who are coming in. And so they're finding experiences around Carson City or around Tahoe, and they're finding, High Sierra pack goats and things to do here. So I just thought that was just really interesting insight, things that we learn when we get to meet with people like that. So really cool. People have been excited about it, and I wish Jody all the best because the goats are pretty hilarious. My favorite was Vincent Van Goat. He stole my heart that day.
What do they pack?
They'll pack all of your gear. So your water bottle, your coats, whatever you need. They want to bring food. They carry all the stuff. And she got it started because, she's ridden her bike across the country 3 different times. She hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, and she kept getting shin splints because she carried too much water in her pack. And so she started researching other ways or animals that could help alleviate some of the weight from her pack. And her mom always had goats, and so she learned how to train them and turned it into a business. So pretty entrepreneurial. It's pretty cool. She was a test proctor, before COVID, and then COVID hit. And of course, people weren't taking tests in person, and then is born High Sierra Pack Goats. So
It's funny, but completely off topic, other than the fact that it's goats. But I saw a news story mid-COVID about a goat farmer who would, for a fee, have one of your goats appear on a Zoom meeting. So the goat would show up on one of your, massive
Oh, that's
10 or
amazing.
12 people Zoom meetings that you have, and the goat would just suddenly pop up and
Brilliant.
you would get to watch the goat for a while the Zoom meeting was going on at the beginning of the Zoom meeting, so you could, because you got tired of looking at all your
You
coworkers
do.
and you wanted to see something. So I thought it was a brilliant idea, and this is
That's amazing.
this is right in line with that because they are funny. I got to work with with goats doing some wildland fire clearing, and they're amazing animals. They really are. So
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So goats are also a wedding thing now.
Yes.
People are having goats at their weddings.
Yeah, goats and llamas. People just love farm animals, I'm telling you. So I'm excited to see what Jody does with this. And she's just getting it off the ground, but she's had quite a few tours already. So we're excited for her. And that's,
Goat yoga.
oh yeah, that's happening just in Carson Valley too. So
Yeah.
we got a whole goat circuit here.
Wow.
So we'll see
This
what
is
happens.
new
I'm
group
sure you're
tour
a
operator
regular-
packaging.
I'm sure you're a regular attendee at Goat Yoga.
I did talk
He's a
about goat
founding
yoga.
member.
I talked about the pack goats at Go West, and people were really interested. It's a really for smaller tour groups. They were really excited. They were looking for weird, unique experiences you can't do anywhere else, and Jody is clearly proof in the pudding. So, all right. Well, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them or talk further about any strategy. This was very high level. We'll have a lot more information for you when we have more assets, and we'll be able to show you how they're in action. But just wanted to give you some insight onto that today. So. Thank you.
Poppy, did you
Peter?
have a question?
I don't have a
Sorry,
question,
Steve.
but I just want to say great report. And we were recently interviewed by a reporter from Forbes magazine.
Great.
So I'll let you know when that comes out.
Yes, please. Please. That's exciting.
Thank you, Lydia.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, well done. So thanks, everybody. We'll go ahead and move on to 11F, future agenda items. So are there any requests from board members at this time for anything to be put on a future agenda? Okay, seeing none. We'll go ahead and move on to 11G, our next meeting, Monday, April 11th, right here, 4 p.m. Monday. Be here or be square. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair Jones.
Yeah, that moves us on to item 12. Any board comments, announcements, or requests for information from any of the board members? No? With hearing nothing, I'll move on to another public comment. Any member of the public like to comment? Seeing none, that leaves me one more duty, and that's to get a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.